Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see Viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
The last of the squamagers in the collection is this male who is really making a solid effort and starving himself to death. He hasn't eaten in quite some time. Occasionally he'll eat a live mouse, but most of the time he will just not eat, and I'll find the mouse alive in there or dead in a couple of days. He's quite thin. But right now he has a little bit of a stuck shed, so we'll help him out a little bit. Squams are not known to cooperate. Took us a few minutes to find the correct size tube. Get this off so he's a little bit more comfortable. Are you gonna poop on me, huh? I'm not sure you have any poop to give. He is very
squishing that neck down.
Yeah, he's very thin. And you know, we've made the decision that, you know, if certain animals just refuse to eat that they used to eat, especially males. Males are of the ilk that once they're at breeding age, if and when they breed, it's pretty much it for them. Go.
That tail part off is very important.
This guy was born here, and he was born he had a pattern, but it faded over time. That's just an unusual coloration. I wonder what's going on there. Or discoloration. I wonder if it's scale rot or something like that. It doesn't really look it. It's just very unusual. But at any rate, I will let him out.
Oh, yeah. This is a very unhappy snake.
Yes, squams definitely like showing their dentures off. Now, recently there was a bite by a squam in Texas, and want to extend your fangs again? No. And the local doctors sort of didn't really treat the bite correctly. There is no specific antivenom for squamager, although there is some information that South African polyvalent does work reasonably well. For quite a number of years, Echis antivenom was used because their closest living relative are from the Echis family, But there is really no clinical data on which antivenin might do the best job at neutralizing neutralizing the venom. And without that information, you don't have a lot to work with clinically when a patient presents with a squamager's bite. You don't know if the risk versus the benefit of giving the antivenin is going to have a good benefit that will exceed the risk of giving, some amount of foreign protein injected into your veins and stuff. So if they had clinical data to back this up, one antivenin or another, there's probably 3 or 4 antivenins they can try. There's a Costa Rican, Pan-African now that's out. There's Inoserp, which uses a number of different venoms from Africa, including venoms for Bitis and Echis. So it's somewhat like the South African gold standard polyvalent. But there's, not even any data from research papers. You could take the venom, pooled venom from a bunch of squamengers and do a inhibition assay in the laboratory using different serums. This has been done many times by many labs. It's not that difficult. Most recently, I saw a paper by Brian Fry and his group there that compared all the different antivenins in India against bites from Echis, which is quite a large number of people get bitten by those in India, and showed which ones were efficacious and which ones were not. So these studies in vitro, which means in glass, in the laboratory, can shed some light on the potential clinical use for different antivenins. So when people take a squamager bite, mostly keepers in the U.S., the clinicians here would have an idea which is probably the best choice if the person needs antivenin. The bite in Texas, of course, the patient showed a coagulopathy, and the physicians gave a number of different blood products which, without the benefit of having antivenin on board to neutralize the venom, you're essentially pouring gasoline on the fire. There's a fine line between whether you decide to give antivenin and you don't, based on the patient's ability to coagulate, because you can't have a patient sitting in your in your hospital bed in ICU that is not clotting, and any slight injury or even spontaneous bleeds can occur in very bad places, like inside your head. A brain bleed is almost certainly a deadly event in these situations, because the only way to try to stop it is surgically go in and try to stop the bleeding. But if you're going to cut into a patient who's already prone to bleeding, this is not a good idea, and you have to relieve the pressure and stop the bleeding in the brain in a short amount of time, otherwise major damage will occur, and the pressure inside your cranium will squish your brain and your blood supply to your brain and kill you fairly rapidly. So it's a big medical quandary treating bites of these lesser species who don't have a specific antivenom available and probably never will, unless they come up with some universal antivenom. So we're going to agitate Mr. Squaminger here a little bit more and get him back into his enclosure and then clean up the mess that we made. Oh, okay, we're still cranky. We're cranky. Okay, so Laura, you move out of the way because...
Yeah, Cranky Pants is coming my way.
Yes, and he will not hesitate into biting right now. And on top of that, we just had our dissertation about the lack of what antivenom would be the best choice from a bite from this species, so we want to avoid a bite from this species. You can relax now.
I'll relax when I feel like relaxing. Hi, handsome. Are you ready to come out and strike at me? Hi, come on. Come say hello. Hi. Yeah, there's nothing tasty. Just showing the people one of our very beautiful Insularis, a little male, who will not hesitate to strike just because, not necessarily because he's hungry, just because he's a bit of a jerk. Those beautiful eyes. Such a nice contrast to the pretty blue. Alright, we'll leave you alone.